What's up, guys? This is KEPHAS, and I really wasn't planning on making another video like this. Certainly not this soon, if ever. It's like a random video where I just talk about stuff. The last time I did this, of course, the last video I made a couple weeks ago, I kind of talked about just what was going on in my life. I felt like it was important to update everyone on that, and it was nice to get all of that out there and stuff. But I'm not really looking to turn this into a series by any means. But I do have a lot of thoughts that are kind of weighing heavily on my mind today, and just some of the things that I've been going through, and just things that I have going on that I just really felt like I wanted to share. And I don't know, maybe someone out there listening will be able to relate and maybe get something from it. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that my words have that much value or anything, but I just really felt like sharing just things going on and some thoughts I have from one human to another, or multiple others, I suppose. It's been a really interesting year, and just before I get into this, what I'm going to talk about, as you can probably tell from the title, is going to be a little bit of a heavy subject. So if you're not, in a state where you want to talk about things like this, dealing with loss, by all means, maybe come back later, or have a nice day. But, it's this year's been pretty amazing, and also very emotionally highs and lows for me. Of course, if you watched the last video, I had announced to everyone that I had gotten married, and that's been an amazing thing. It's made this one of the best years of my life, hands down. But with those highs, there have been some challenges and some lows. And I'm someone who has experienced loss before, more times than I care to admit. I've lost a grandfather. I've lost a sister, and she was very young. I've lost, an aunt that I was very close to. I've experienced some pretty hard losses in my life, and I think that's something that, unfortunately, we all have to go through sometimes. But this year we have experienced a few more losses than most years would provide, unfortunately. It started off, and this may seem kind of weird to start off with for some, but my fiance's German Shepherd was diagnosed with leukemia, with lymphoma. And so that kind of came sudden, and diagnosis was sudden, and we decided, the best thing to do for the pet and for us was to, let him go and put him down. And so that was, a really hard thing to go through, making that kind of decision, and then going through with it, and then saying goodbye to, if you've ever owned a dog or a pet of any kind, then you know how important they are. They're just like any other member of your family, and you get attached, and you build a bond with them. And he wasn't my dog. I mean, like, he was her dog, but I had a bond with him, and it was really the first time that I had ever gotten close to a dog like that, because I've never owned a dog, but he always liked me, and for whatever reason, and I always liked him. And it was just it was really at the beginning of the year, and it was like, wow, what a way to start the year, but we made sure that he didn't suffer any, and that he wasn't in a lot of pain, and we moved on. And it's we still think about him. And it's like, when you get to the holidays, I think that's when things really start to, it's like, oh, it's the first holiday without whoever, and so that's when it really starts to hit. I think that's why a lot of this stuff is weighing on my mind. But unfortunately, that was just the beginning. Later on in the year, kind of near the end of summer, my wife's grandmother passed away, and that was also kind of unexpected, of course. I mean, when I say unexpected, she was obviously had lived a full life. She was much older, and it was kind of like her health had been declining, and she was suffering from dementia, and so it's coming, but you don't know when, and then it just kind of happens suddenly, and that's kind of the situation. And so when it's sudden like that, it's kind of like, wow, it kind of catches you off guard, and it caught the family off guard a little bit, and you have to go through all that, and so losing a grandma, some people are really close with their grandparents, some people aren't. I highly recommend that if you have grandparents that you're not as close with, spend some time with them. If you go visit them more, if they're around, having grandparents is a major privilege, and losing one is hard, and of course I know that too, because a month after my wife's grandma passed away, my grandfather also passed away. And my grandfather and I were very close. He was like more of a dad to me than my own dad was. He was probably the most influential person in my life, and I had the privilege of having a very, very close relationship with my grandfather my whole life. He was always there for me, and that's why I say if you have grandparents that are around and it's just one of those things, it gets hard, you don't go visit them as much as you should. I recommend that you go see them, because they love you, and when you see them, it makes their day, and it just makes them happy. All it takes is your presence to make them happy. It doesn't take much. So, I highly recommend that you do that. I mean, I don't want to push anybody to do anything, but everybody's got different situations. But of course, if it's optional, if it's possible, I recommend it. But my grandfather was very close to me, and it was one of those situations where, my grandfather had, he had a really bad heart his entire life, and to the point where he had to get a heart transplant, and he actually did. He survived it, and he actually lived well beyond the average life expectancy of someone who gets a transplant, and it was a miracle. But unfortunately, the heart transplant medication that he was taking had really negative effects on his kidneys, and it ultimately caused them to shut down. And he was, doing dialysis, and he had done that for several years. But eventually he just got sick of it and decided that he didn't want to do it anymore, and that's when he passed. So he kind of made that decision. It was kind of like, just talking to him, he knew he was really thinking about it, but he finally decided to do it, and so it kind of happened all very fast. And of course, again, when it happens suddenly, it's hard for you, and at the same time, when it's sudden, when you think about the person who went, you're kind of somewhat happy for them, because they didn't suffer. It's just like with all of these situations, they all happen very sudden, so it's a little bit more emotionally abrupt for the people that are experiencing the loss. But for the person who passed, it's almost like, well, at least they didn't suffer more. They didn't go through anything really bad, and now they're at peace. And and everybody has different viewpoints on what that means, but they're not suffering anymore, and I think that's something that we can all understand. So, but at the same time, there's that gap now, there's that hole, that place that they filled in your life, and they're not there anymore. And like I said, coming up on the holidays, it's like, man, it's gonna be the first holiday without my grandpa, and like I said, my grandpa is like losing my dad, man. It's not, we were very close, and I guess I'm just thinking about it a lot, because, we're setting up the holidays, and it's like, and all that kind of stuff. And, we had our wedding, and, he wasn't there, but at the same time, it's like, well, that they would want you to live a full life and be happy. And that's exactly what, I do. It's, my belief in a lot of ways. I mean, I believe in an afterlife, and I believe that he's in a better place. That's my belief, and all that, and that's where I stand on that. But at the same time, I also believe that, when someone has such an influence on your life, and when they teach you things, they're kind of always with you, like, even though he's not here anymore, everything that he ever taught me, and everything that he's ever said to me, and all the love that he poured into my life, my whole life, it's like a part of him is still with me. His presence is still here with me in a way, and I carry him with me every single day. It's like, he's gone, but the love that he had for me and the love that I have for him is not, and that lives on through me. And I don't know. I sorry if this is kind of mushy, but like I want to, pass that love on to everyone that I love, and my family, and my kids when we have kids, and anybody out there. It's something that, it's comforting when I think back on everything that my grandfather has done for me and everything that he's taught me, and just how much of an influence he was on my life. And, like, this is kind of silly, but this is where like gaming became such a big thing in my life. I mean, when I was little, my grandfather wasn't really a gamer, but he was like a casual computer guy back when computers were starting to really become a home, thing, and people had them back then. Not everybody had them, but my grandfather and, his brother and sister always had one. So, but he was never a gamer, but, he knew that I liked games, and he made sure that I had every game I ever wanted. And, that's one thing. I didn't have a lot growing up, but I did have every game I ever wanted because my grandfather made sure of it. I mean, I remember when Pokemon came out and all my friends had, red and blue, and then my grandfather got me yellow, because he somehow knew that had to be the best one. And he was right, because everybody hated me because I had like all the starters and Pikachu, and it was just like, it was awesome, So, I had that exclusive. My grandfather just always made sure that I had the games that I wanted to play. I had every console growing up, just about, and every console that I wanted. And I had pretty much every game that I ever wanted. Like, I would go up there, because I spent every weekend with my grandparents growing up, and every Friday I'd go up there and he would take me to Blockbuster, and like I'd rent 2 games and 2 movies. The man had to spend a fortune on me, like just from Blockbuster alone. But he did that, and I got to play so many games, and so I grew up playing games, and sometimes he'd play with me, sometimes he'd just watch, sometimes he would just read the guides for me because I couldn't see very well, and he would just he would read the guides for me. And so, like, it's weird, but like I had a really good kind of relationship with my grandfather around gaming, and it wasn't so much like he was a gamer, but just he knew that I liked it, and so that meant that it was important to him in a way, and he knew all of them. He called Mario, but he still knew who Mario was, and he knew every Mario game that was out there because he knew I'd won it. So that was the kind of grandfather I had, and I think, like, one of the, like, when I think of like top 3 memories with my grandfather, one of them, I think the one that would probably interest, you guys the most is, when I got older, I was graduating high school, and, you go through this weird phase, at least I did, where it's like, gotta be a man now, gotta figure out who I am, gotta be mature, gotta be an adult, that kind of thing. And, it's funny, like, you think like that, and it's the most unadult thing ever, is to think like that, like, I gotta be an adult now, I gotta prove that I'm an adult. It's like, when you're really an adult, you don't give a crap, you just do what you can, and any chance you can find any kind of happiness, you'll do it. That's what, really, when you're an adult, you know that you only have to adult when you have to adult. That's the only time you should ever adult. But, I was going through this phase where, I have to be an adult now. I have to be mature. I have to, like, do stuff that matters. I got to make the most of my time, all this crap. And so, like, I stopped playing games. And, I tend to take things to the extreme. Maybe I'm a little obsessive compulsive. I don't know. But I was getting rid of all of my games, and I was either giving them away or selling them or whatever, or putting them up, and just didn't play them, some of them. And, of course, that was a big regret later on, but I've gotten most of that back. But I was going through this at the time, and it was my grandfather that's kind of snapped me out of it, because I was talking to him about it. He's like, what are you doing with all your games? I was like, well, I'm just getting rid of them because it's time to be an adult and all this stuff. And he said, man, he's like, first off, I spent a lot of money on those, so you better get them back. Number one. And number two, what he said to me was basically, I've known you your entire life, and you have always loved playing video games. From the moment you first held a controller to this day, you have always been a gamer. And even though you're telling me all this crap right now, you're still a gamer. You still love games. And he told me flat out, he said, it's who you are. You're a gamer. That's who you are. It's a part of your identity. It's what you love. And, he said part of being an adult is understanding that when you find something that you enjoy, you keep doing it. That's what you do with life. You live for as much time as you live, and you spend that time as much as you can doing what makes you happy. And as long as you're doing what you need to do in life to live your life and to provide for yourself, then if playing games is what makes you happy, then play as many games as you want. And he snapped me out of it. He told me flat out, you're a gamer. That's who you are. And I've held on to that ever since then. And I snapped out of it and I got my games back. It may not seem like much to some. I know a lot of people think that video games are a waste of time, but the truth of the matter is that, if you don't enjoy them, yeah, they're a waste of time. But if you enjoy them, they are not a waste of time at all. And gaming and what being a gamer means to me is that I love playing video games. So I spend a lot of time doing that because I love it. And when you love what you're doing and you enjoy the time that you're spending, then you're not wasting it. And that's something that's stuck with me ever since then. And whenever I find something that I love to do, I pursue it with everything that I have, and try my best. And that's why I do YouTube. That's why I play video games. That's why I married the woman that I did, because it's love and because it makes me happy. And that's a good enough reason as any to do anything. And so that's why I've been playing video games ever since then. It's video games are an important part of my life. I'm thankful to have a family that's always supported that. I'm thankful to marry a woman who, even though she's not a gamer, she supports that and fully understands that and embraces that aspect of my life and fully. We have a Legend of Zelda picture hanging up in our living room. She does not care. She thinks it's cool. That's my life, and I owe a lot of that to my grandfather for helping me understand that I love games and it makes me happy. And, it's like, when you think about dealing with loss, I've kind of shared this before, I'm sure, but, when I lost my sister, it was obviously, that was the really hard loss in my life. I think we all go through, it's part of life, and, sometimes you lose people that are really, you're going to lose people sometimes that are really close to you, and but when it's a young sibling and it's not supposed to happen and it's sudden and it was just a horrible experience. If you don't know, I had a sister. I was about 12 years old. My sister was 10 months old, and it was 2 days after Christmas, and she unexpectedly passed in her sleep, and it was a horrible, traumatic experience, and that's what I'll say. It's no joke. And, when it happened, again, it's where I learned the whole thing about, when you love someone and they have such an impact on your life because of how much they loved you and how much time you spent with them, there's a part of them that are still with you. And it's like, my sister taught me a very important lesson, which was the capacity of love that I could have for another human being. And that's what I learned from my sister, and, it obviously still, it still moves me to this day. She'd be 20 years old today. And, when it happened, like, it was really hard on everybody. But when she passed away, I went home and I spent a couple of weeks kind of by myself at home. And, we fortunately had a pretty big snow, because I don't think I was in any position to go back to school or anything. But, we had a pretty big snow, and it kept me out of school for 2 weeks. And during that time, I just kind of spent at home. And that Christmas, my grandfather had gotten me Ocarina of Time. And so I just kind of sat there and put that game in my N64, and I started playing. And for 2 weeks straight, I played Ocarina of Time, only stopping to eat and, sleep. And through those 2 weeks, I started to, deal with my grief. And the way I dealt with it was, in a way, playing Ocarina of Time, not just as an escape from the hurt, but also as something to focus on, something to challenge me with, something to overcome. And I think that had a big impact on me moving on, because it's another game. It's life continues. There are more games to play. There's more life to experience, and that's kind of how I moved on. And I feel like it's kind of dumb to say this. It's like Link has Navi. Well, I have my sister's memories, and she's there guiding me. They're reminding me how to love. Again, maybe that sounds kind of cheesy, but that's just kind of like, it's a weird way for me to deal with that and move on. And so, that's how I move on with it. That's how I find peace with when I lose, with loss. When I deal with loss, I just remember that the people that if it hurts is because I loved them. That's because they love me, but that love is still there, and they'll always be with me. And it's weird how like I can kind of chronologize my life based on what game I was playing at the time. But video games have always been a part of my life, and so anyways, it's just like I don't know. It's kind of a weird connection, but it's just funny how games have gotten me through hard times in life, and how like I don't know. Sometimes it's an escape, sometimes it's just a break from reality, and sometimes it's just doing something that makes me happy. And whenever I go through a hard time, I know that I can take a little bit, take a break from what I'm going through, play a game, and then get back to it refreshed and ready to deal with whatever it is that I'm going through. And I owe a lot of that to my grandfather for reminding me that this is what I love to do. And so, I don't know if gaming is your thing. I don't know if painting is your thing. I don't know if walking and doing music. I don't know what it is that you love. I don't know why I said walking. That was kind of weird. But whatever it is that you love to do, don't stop doing it, please. It's important. If for no other reason, do it because it makes you happy, and that's the best reason to do anything, because it makes you happy. Unless like it makes someone else unhappy, don't do that. Like, don't be a jerk or hurt people. But do things that are wholesome. That if it makes you happy, then keep doing it. If going to see movies makes you happy, if going to concerts makes you happy, do it. As long as you're getting stuff done that needs to be done, who cares how you spend your time? If it makes you happy, it's not a waste of time. So I don't know, this was kind of a bunch of just thoughts and maybe a little bit of rambling. I apologize, but it's just what I've been going through, what I've been thinking about, and I don't know, maybe it'll resonate with someone listening, and I hope it does. If you're going through loss, if you're going through something like that, just hang in there and hold on to those memories. Draw strength from them and carry them with you, and when you do that, in a way, it's like the person's never left, and it's not the same as having them there, obviously, but they're still part of your life. They're still in your heart, and that's important. And then, of course, if you have something in your life that you love doing, it's not a waste of time to do it. Keep doing it. Do it with all your heart, and do it with as much passion as you've ever had. If you're a gamer, don't feel like you're wasting your time, because you're not. It's important to you. If it makes you happy, keep doing it. And to my fellow gamers out there, let's keep playing, keep looking forward for the next exciting games that come out, and keep looking back at all the amazing games that have already come out. So, again, I hope that maybe this resonated with someone. I'm sorry if this was weird, kind of random, but I just really felt like I had to get my thoughts and my heart out there. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have an amazing holiday, and I hope that you have an amazing new year. And whatever comes, whether it's good or bad, or maybe a mixture of both, highs and lows, stand firm, be strong, and face it with everything that you have. And don't forget, please continue to do the things that make you happy. Have a wonderful day. This is KAFIS. Until next time.